The South Area Stores was built in 1947 by ICI as a perspex manufacturing plant, and in 1961 it was extended to the west where the newer roof panels can be seen. In 1970 it was converted to a store for polypropylene powders and granules, and continued to be used for this by BASF, following their manufacturing plant purchase in 1994. The stores covered an area of 31,000 square metres and was the largest building on the Wilton site. The construction was steel-framed, with brick walls between bays, brick-protected columns and a concrete floor. The roof was a series of pitches, those on the extension being aluminium and the original being galbestos, all supported on steel girders. Each pitch had approximately 76 2x2.5 metre skylights, made of polymethyl methacrylate plastic. The storage area inside was divided by 4-hour firewalls into 8 bays running north to south. Access through these was via large 4-hour fire doors, normally held in the open position with pass doors alongside. Product was stored in rows on wooden pallets and moved around by forklift truck. The area totally destroyed by fire covers a total of 18,000 square metres, including an external bin park containing plastic bins of polypropylene material. Across the road to the northeast of the warehouse is the BASF Procom plant, which was immediately downwind of the fire throughout. A pipe rack carrying vital services to other areas of the Wilton site ran east-west of the warehouse. Both of these were protected from serious damage by the direct action of firefighters, who kept protective and defensive water curtains in action throughout.
For people who live and work on Teesside, where the petrochemical industry dominates the economy as well as the skyline, it seemed that everybody's nightmare was being realised. Not only with the danger posed by such a major fire, but also the potential destruction of one of the area's big employers. In the event, those fears were not realised, and the fire crews came through one of their biggest peacetime emergencies superbly. It began soon after 4 o'clock this morning. A huge depot storing hundreds of tons of polypropylene pellets was quickly alight from end to end. It was the big one, the kind of fire that Cleveland's emergency services have been in readiness for over many years. As the fire grew in intensity, crews were called in from Durham and North Yorkshire. Eventually, 200 firefighters and 40 appliances were engaged in the battle to contain the inferno at the heart of Europe's biggest petrochemical complex. By mid-morning, it was clear that the battle was being won, even though the pall of smoke was still rising thousands of feet into the air. But BASF, who bought the site from ICI 2 years ago, said the burning product was one of the most innocuous of the plastics produced on Teesside. The smoke was large particles of soot, not toxic gases.
It was feared at one time that some homes might have to be evacuated if the wind changed direction. In the end, it wasn't necessary.
Well, I don't believe anybody will not be able to work. We'll be doing different things probably. We have, in fact, now 320 people on site-ish. Of those, there are 18 work in the stores area.
The huge shadow over Teesside might look like a public relations disaster. But what happened here today is also being hailed as a convincing success for the industry and the emergency services, who together plan for the worst. Today they met it head on and coped.
It is possible that if this had occurred anywhere else in the country, it might have been far more serious than it has. It is as a result of the training, the rehearsing of the plans and the plans themselves that has that has created an incident which has been dealt with comparatively quickly.
The fire was communicated to the Wilton Site Fire Service at 0402 hours on the 9th of October 1995 and resulted in the attendance of some 40 fire appliances and 200 firefighters from Cleveland, Durham, North Yorkshire, ICI and BASF. After the first attendance by the Wilton Site Fire Service, the fire had spread very rapidly, and they'd had to withdraw from internal firefighting because of molten and ignited plastic falling onto them and the stock, causing fires behind them. A large open door and open internal fire doors provided a plentiful oxygen supply, which increased as first the plastic skylights and then the aluminium panels melted. The air being drawn into the fire was of such velocity in the early stages that firefighters had to hold their helmets on. The fire quickly leapfrogged from bay to bay via the plastic skylights, which caused molten flaming plastic to ignite stored product below. Burning brands were carried by the wind to cause several other small fires in various parts of the Wilton site, but the most significant was the external bin park, which was totally destroyed. Throughout the fire, consideration was given to the impact on the remainder of the site. Special consideration was given to the danger of the fire spreading to the adjoining pipe rack and the Procon plant. Their close proximity to the warehouse were a major influence in the firefighting tactics adopted. 15 fire appliances and their crews were strategically placed to prevent fire spread to these areas. In the early stages of the fire, defensive techniques were employed using 15 jets, 5 ground monitors and 2 hydraulic platforms. An offensive foam attack was made when sufficient foam supplies and equipment were on site to mount and maintain a big enough foam attack to enable the fire to be brought under control and subsequently extinguished. A stop message was sent at 13:51 hours on the 9th of October, and a gradual withdrawal plan was implemented. 6 fire crews from Cleveland, ICI and BASF remained in attendance throughout the night, dealing with regular outbreaks of fire. Fire crews from ICI and BASF remained at the scene for a further 4 days, dealing with smaller outbreaks. ICI Fire Service responded to several more outbreaks up to 10 days afterwards. An estimated total of 40,000 tons of firefighting water was used and 4,000 tons of foam. Wilton Site Fire Service were in attendance at the warehouse at 0405 hours. They entered the building by a door on the west leading to the offices, where they found that Bay 1 was heavily smoke-logged. They moved eastward into the bay to the furthermost aisleway, where they could see a severe fire at the north end of the bay. They called for the County Fire Brigade at 0410 and repositioned their appliance at the north of Bay 1. 2 fire teams were committed to enter the building with breathing apparatus and fire hoses. They withdrew when burning plastic started to fall onto them. They re-entered the building farther to the east via a permanently open door to Bay 3, laying hose lines through the open fire door from Bay 3 to Bay 2, and set up a ground monitor to provide a curtain across the open fire door to Bay 1. They withdrew from this position when molten flaming skylight plastic started to fall onto product stacks, igniting them and stacks behind the firefighters. Polypropylene is a hydrocarbon which burns at a high temperature. Large areas of vitrified brickwork are present in several areas of the building. Depending on the makeup of the brick, this can occur at temperatures of between 900 and 1500 degrees Celsius. Steel softens, distorts and collapses at temperatures above 1500 degrees. The steel frame of the building has not only collapsed, but in some areas has totally disappeared. This gives some indication of the temperatures involved. The building is large. The loading bay door was open, and so were the internal doors, so there was a plentiful oxygen supply. When it's burning, polypropylene melts and flows, and this helped the fire to spread. A major factor in the rapid fire spread was the plastic skylights on adjacent pitches, which allowed the fire to leapfrog. No fire detection had been required, nor was provided, in bays 1, 2 or 3. Bays 5, 6 and 7 had linear beam detection. The fire doors, which were operated by smoke detection, had an ionization smoke detector on an arm either side of and immediately above the door. A local flashing beacon and audible alarm activated to warn of the door's closure. These systems were standalone units and not connected into the fire alarm system, so the fire alarm didn't sound if the detectors operated. Eyewitness accounts from those first at the scene established that the fire began at the northeast of Bay 1. An investigation team of specialists from Cleveland Fire Brigade, BASF Fire Service, the HSE, and insurance-appointed forensic scientists began a slow and laborious task of excavation in the area, which was hampered because of the dangerous condition of the remaining brick and steelwork. A thick crust of molten polypropylene had to be cut away to enable product to be removed for a depth of some 2 meters, to establish the product stored in the area to be matched against what was thought to have been in the area, since records had been destroyed by the fire. The burning pattern appeared to indicate that the seat of the fire had been in the area of the north of Block D, near to the fire door to Bay 2. Row 38 was found to have 3 of a total of 6 pallets totally consumed by fire, and the adjacent rows had partial burning along their length down to pallet level. The burning pattern indicated that the fire began in the second pallet of row 38. Lighting plans and measurements of the lighting positions indicated that a light fitting would have been immediately above the second pallet of row 38. Very careful removal of the debris revealed the remains of the light fitting. The light fitting was a 5-foot twin-tube fluorescent unit of a type which had no shielding between the top of the plastic reflector and the electrical gear train. It's possible that an electrical fault within the components could have caused the ignition of the reflector material. Tests carried out on a similar light fitting showed that the reflector was easily ignited by the single application of a match. Polypropylene materials similar to those in row 38 were placed beneath an ignited lighting unit. Within 1 minute, burning material from the reflector had ignited the wrapping of the product. And within a further 3 minutes, the polypropylene itself was beginning to burn. The product bags can be seen to split, with the powder running out and igniting. The burning of the stack becomes more intense over time, but is still relatively slow, with low smoke generation. After 10 minutes, the generation of smoke is more evident, as is the deeper-seated burning of the product. At 13 minutes, black smoke is being produced. At 15 minutes, the test was suspended. The fire was easily extinguished with the gentle application of a water spray. The ease of extinguishment after 15 minutes and the relatively low smoke output, when compared with the scene faced by the first fire crews, indicates that the fire had been burning for a period of some 30 to 45 minutes before being detected. This could either have been by smoke detection in Bay 5, or by the fracturing by heat of the break glass unit near to the door from Bay 1 to Bay 2. Immediately after the fire, BASF set up 3 teams. One concerned solely with crisis management and business continuity, an inquiry team, and a technical fire investigation team. 5 days before the Wilton fire, tabletop exercising had been carried out at the Cheadle offices of BASF on the subject of a chemical warehouse fire. The participants in this were the Regional Managing Director, North Europe, UK site and divisional directors, business managers, senior engineering and production managers, and environment, health and safety professionals. The lessons learnt in the exercising and in prior exercising with the public emergency services all had a bearing on the successful handling of the Wilton fire.
It must have been a very terrifying sight to see these vast amount of black cloud coming out of the site. I think, though, it is generally recognised that the company and the emergency service did keep people very well informed locally. We are having an investigation. The HSE will be publishing the results of that investigation, and I think that everybody will be reassured by that.